Hey everybody, it's Jimmy from the DIY and Digital, and today we're adding a hillside to my town scene. Welcome back everybody. First of all, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any updates like this video. So this is the area that we're going to be working on today. This is an area that's given me a lot of problems and I haven't been able to quite figure out what I want to do. And I finally decided that I wanted to put a hillside there, but I'd already done a lot of the scenery and track work around it and I didn't want to mess any of that up. So I was going to show you guys how I was able to add a hillside into a partially completed area. I started off by clearing out as much of the area as I could. I then laid a couple pieces of typing paper down, I taped them together, and then I took a pen and traced out the area that I wanted the hill to be on so that I had a footprint of the hill. So I'm using white foam board insulation, and this pack was about $10 for 6 sheets. Now I'm only going to be using 1 sheet for this entire project. So I took the design that I traced out and I laid it on the foam board along the edge since I had a straight edge, and I began cutting. Once I'd finished cutting everything, I snapped the hill section out of the board, being careful not to break it. I then did a little bit of trim work, and I took it over and test fit it on my layout. I then took a few measurements for the second level of the hill. I took those measurements and cut a rough shape for the second level of the hill. Now this wasn't exactly the size I needed, so I drew the areas that I wanted to cut and trimmed off the excess. I then cut out a final piece which I eyeballed and then glued it all together with latex caulk. Now I did not glue the bottom piece to the board just yet. I put a weight on it and let that dry overnight. So here is the base of the hill, and if you notice one thing about it, it needs paint. Now I'm going to be using this interior wall paint that I picked up at the home improvement store. This is a sample size of wall paint and they are very, very cheap and you get quite a lot of paint out of these little bottles. I started off by giving it a good shake to mix up the paint and make sure it was nice and even, and I began painting. I took my time painting, making sure to get every little bit of the white foam covered in paint. Any blips of white would potentially ruin the illusion of the hillside that I was creating. Once the paint was dry, I applied caulk to the bottom of the hill and I stuck the hillside where I wanted it on the layout. Now while the caulk is drying, I did do the scenic base for the area around the hill. And you'll notice that I'm using some of the real dirt that I prepped in a previous video, and I'll link that right up here as well as in the description below. Once that was done, I began applying the foliage that was going to cover the hillside. In this case, I'm using reindeer moss, and I've got a full tutorial on how I do this technique, and I'll link it up here as well as in the description below. And here's a view of the finished hills in my town scene. Personally, I am very happy with the way they turned out. They've added a lot of depth and character to the layout that I didn't have, and it solved a problem that was really bugging me to figure out how I was going to finish out this town scene. I do plan to add hero trees, and I've demonstrated the way that I prep inexpensive trees off Amazon, and I will link that here in the description below as well as right up here. And that is the hillside tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any updates like town updates like this video. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Happy railroading!